The Joe Rogan Experience.
There was this thing about these Texas kids, and they were piled onto this area together. It's like this, I don't know, it looked like some outdoor party area, but they were just stacked in there like sardines, and people are like, "Holy fuck!" Like, yeah, you didn't raise your kids right, and even if you did, if they're hanging around with other kids that are fuck ups, they're gonna fuck up.
Oh yeah,
we all did that. I was involved in a lot of really stupid shit because I was around some kids that were sketchy when I was a kid. You know, like especially when I lived in Jamaica Plain. Jamaica Plain was like this area that we only lived there for about maybe less than 2 years. It was like a year and a half, and it was like an urban section of Boston that's since been gentrified. Apparently it's nice now, but back then it was sketchy. It was like all kinds of, like, everyone, Irish kids, Italian kids, black kids, Puerto Rican kids, but no one was getting good parenting. Everyone's parents smoked. People were drunk. Like they were chaos people. They were like, it was weird. They were wild people. Like the whole block was filled with wild people. They weren't bad people. There wasn't like a crime-infested, dangerous neighborhood, but it was sketchy, and everyone was a mess.
Yeah.
Everyone on my block. My next-door neighbor, we've talked about this before, they were a punk rock band called Death in the Shopping Mall, and they used to play downstairs in the basement. And so they had these thick layers of carpet set up in the basement. So they had carpet all over the door, carpet all over the ceiling, many, 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 many layers. And these guys would fucking go off in there, playing guitar and fucking screaming. And I guess I was 11? No, 13? Yeah, I was 13 years old because it was middle school right before I went to high school. So I was 13 years old. And I was like fascinated because I was just becoming a teenager. Yeah. And I'm living next door to these fucking savages. These savages. They just were playing crazy fucking loud music.
And you didn't see punk rock people a lot back then.
No.
I remember there was a kid at the bus stop on Dale Mabry, and he had a punk rock haircut. And every morning guard driving to school, I'd look at him. I'd be like, he has a mohawk. His mom let him have a mohawk.
Well, I went from San Francisco to Gainesville, Florida, which was a college town.
You went to Gainesville?
Yeah, I was in Gainesville, Florida when I was 11 to 13.
You and River Phoenix.
And Ted Bundy. That guy, too.
Don't get me started on Ted Bundy.
But so we lived there for a little bit, and that was like just kind of college people, and in the apartments we lived in, just regular folks. It was nothing crazy. You didn't really see too much craziness involved as far as crime or sketchy folks. Everyone was pretty normal. Different races, different backgrounds, but, you know, just people, apartment life, you know?
Yeah.
But then when we moved to Boston, man, those kids were wild. They'd break into fucking warehouse buildings, and they were in this. Everyone knew how to steal a car. They were like 13. They were all smoking. Everyone was smoking. Like, I immediately went into this crazy environment of whoa, 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 whoa. Like, I was like my dog Marshall, in like a room full of like rabid German shepherds. I was like, hey guys, can we talk this out? I'm from an apartment complex. I'm not used to like semi-urban kids.
That's an interesting transition as a young child.
It was rough, man. It was rough.
When I was 10, I moved to a neighborhood where it was very aggressive.
When you were 10, same sort of situation?
Yeah, we lived in a real white trash neighborhood, but my dad kind of sheltered me a little bit.
Oh,
and
no.
And then I moved in with and there was all boys, like they were all like a little older than me. And I remember I learned the word faggot real quick. It's the first thing I learned, that and how to hold an ice cube in my asshole. And so
two really important things to have in your
But I remember coming
resume.
home and being like to my sister, hey, faggot, go get me. My dad's
Oh
like,
my
what
God.
the fuck?
That's hilarious. Yeah, you can certainly get ruined by bad kids. And no one knows that more than dads. Like, dads see you hanging around with sketchy kids. Like, hey, I don't like you hanging around with that fucking guy. Like, dads see where that stuff goes. Because sketchy boys commit murder. You know what I'm saying? Like, sketchy boys join gangs. Sketchy boys rob cars and kill people drunk driving and set fires to warehouses. That's what sketchy boys do. Sketchy boys can get you locked up. Like, we did a lot of sketchy shit when I was 13 years old. And I remember thinking, like, wow, these guys have been doing this their whole life, and they're 13.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, I just sort of stumbled in. I just want to be someone's friend. You know, I'm like, fuck, that's when I took up fishing. I really got into fishing, for real. I got to get the fuck away from these kids.
I didn't have
crazy.
I didn't have your brain. I kind of just picked up with them every time.
Man, I did not feel protected when I was young. And it's one of the reasons why I value community today. When I was young, I felt like really disconnected. My parents split up. And then my mom moved in with my stepdad. And he's a great guy and everything like that. But we moved around a lot. And so I was never around kids that I knew for any long period of time. And I never felt like I was safe. Because I remember like kids would always start fights. Like boys, if you move in a new neighborhood, boys always want to start fights, especially if girls think you're cute. If girls think you're cute, boys want to fuck you up. I mean, and then when I was 13, I was like, I just got to get the fuck away from these kids. And I found this lake that was near me. I really got into fishing. It was called Jamaica Pond. In Jamaica Plain, and they would stock it with trout, and there was bass in there, all kinds of fish, man. You could fish there all the time. And I met this whole community of people who fished there, mostly like older folks that would fish there. And but you learn about fishing. So I fished like all the time, man, all the time.
That's, that speaks a lot to who you are, because that's not who I am. Like
you just dove in.
When bass, I remember being like totally anti-pot, and then my buddy came and was like, "You want to get high?" And I was like, "Okay, I'm in." And we got high on Sal's dock.
Well, I had friends like that too. There was a friend named Vic Dabrowski. I'll never forget. He was the most criminal out of all of our friends, and he was selling weed when we were 13. Dude was selling weed at 13. Like you just call him. He had the weed, and he was just like a dude that like had seen some shit. Like even 13, he wasn't mean or anything like that. He was a nice guy. But like he'd just come over like, "What's up, man? Everything cool? You guys cool?" Yeah, like he had seen some
I wish
shit.
I had that fucking confidence.